No one expected the jungle moons of Veridax Prime to become a battlefield, yet the ground shook as ships fell from the sky. Trees burned. Screams filled the air. The beast had been unleashed. The beast was not a machine or a warlord. It was alive. It had stripes like a tiger and eyes that glowed like suns. It moved faster than bullets. Its claws tore metal. Its roar stopped hearts. In one day, it had killed 100 of the best warriors from the Galactic Union. They called it Zorak. Some believed it was ancient. Others thought it was a weapon left behind by a dead race. No one knew how to stop it. Traps failed. Blasters did nothing. Even bombs only made it angrier. Commanders begged for backup. Elite teams landed and vanished. The beast tore through soldiers like paper. The jungle was its throne. The planet, its domain. No one dared enter alone, except one human. A man named Cole. He wasn't a soldier, not anymore. Just a former field medic, wandering with a backpack, a flask, and a few stories. He landed on Veridax for reasons no one understood. He had no armor, no weapons, no orders. Just a calm voice. And strong hands. He had survived wars, but never hunted monsters. When asked why he came, he only smiled and said, "Maybe it just needs someone to talk to." The officers laughed at him. Then they locked him out. Still, he walked straight into the jungle, alone, as if death couldn't see him. As if fear didn't live in his bones. Zorak watched him from the shadows. It had seen hunters, killers, heroes. But this human walked. Slowly, calmly. The beast felt something strange. No scent of fear, no sound of rage. Only a heartbeat, steady and clear. Cole came to a stream. He sat on a rock, pulled out a sandwich, and began to eat. The jungle fell silent. Leaves rustled, the wind stilled. Then branches cracked. Zorak stepped out, glowing eyes locked on him. Every soldier watching from orbit thought it was the end. But Cole didn't run. He didn't scream. He raised a hand slowly. The beast stopped. Its growl faded. It sniffed the air, curious. Something ancient in it stirred. Cole said softly, "Hey there, big guy. You hungry too?" He tore off a piece of the sandwich and tossed it near the beast. Zorak blinked, sniffed. Then, shockingly, it took the bite and lay down. Right beside him. Like a giant house cat waiting for a belly rub. Asterisk. The command center on Veridax Prime went silent as the live drone feed showed what no one believed could happen. Zorak, the same beast that had torn apart elite fighters, was lying next. To a human like a loyal pet. Officers stared at the screen, eyes wide and mouths dry. The footage zoomed in, showing Cole gently stroking the creature's massive head. Zorak was relaxed, its breathing calm. It didn't move to strike. It didn't growl. Instead, it rolled onto its side, exposing its vulnerable belly. "He's not attacking it," whispered an alien technician. "He's rubbing its stomach," answered another, completely stunned. The commanding officer didn't speak. He just stared, confused and unsure whether to call this insanity or a miracle. On the ground, Cole chuckled as Zorak purred deeply, vibrating the soil beneath them. "You're not so bad," he muttered. "Just misunderstood, huh?" He scratched behind the beast's ears like he used to with old dogs back on Earth. Zorak stretched like a feline and nudged Cole gently with its massive head. Cole didn't flinch. He placed his palm on the side of its face and held the gaze. In that quiet exchange, something deep passed between them. Respect, recognition, peace. Back at the base, chaos erupted. Scientists demanded samples. Officers demanded orders. One general suggested capturing them both. "Contain the human and extract the creature," he barked. "It may be our only chance to weaponize it." But another voice in the room, calmer and older, disagreed. "That man did what we failed to do. If we move now, we might ruin everything." The room quieted again. The older alien turned to the screen. We watch. And we wait. Cole didn't know he was being watched by a dozen battlecruisers above. He only knew that Zorak had stopped being a threat. It was just a tired beast, alone and feared, resting under the sun with someone who didn't want to kill it. That night, Cole made camp beside Zorak. The stars blinked overhead. In the distance, jungle predators gave the area a wide berth. Nothing dared approach. The scent of Zorak was enough to send fear through the bones of every creature nearby. Cole cooked over a fire. He sliced dried meat and offered it to the beast. Zorak sniffed it, then ate carefully. It had sharp teeth but soft eyes. Cole noticed something strange: scars. Dozens of old wounds covered Zorak's body, hidden under fur. "You've been through hell, haven't you?" Cole said quietly. He leaned closer and saw deep marks that looked like burn scars, laser wounds, and even signs of restraints. His smile faded. This wasn't a wild beast. This was something tortured, once caged, and set loose. Zorak made a low whine, not a growl, a sound filled with pain. It rested its head on Cole's lap, and for the first time, Cole saw it not as a monster, but as a survivor. Broken, abandoned, angry, but not evil. At the same time, in a hidden base, buried beneath the jungle, another group watched the same feed. A group not part of the Galactic Union, mercenaries, slavers. They had released Zorak months ago after years of failed experiments. They thought it was dead. Now they watched in horror. "It's still alive," one hissed. "And tamed by a human." Their leader stood slowly. He wore metal armor and had eyes like cracked stone. "If the Union figures out we made that thing, we're finished." He slammed his fist onto the table. "We finish what we started. We kill it. We kill the human. And we erase everything." The mercenaries moved fast. Within hours, dropships screamed toward Veridax's surface, cloaked and deadly. Their weapons weren't meant to subdue. They were designed to burn everything: flesh, bone, memory. Cole sensed something in the wind. Zorak lifted its head and growled low, ears twitching. The jungle went silent again, but this time it wasn't peace. It was warning. Danger was coming, and it was coming fast. Cole stood and grabbed his small pack. "Let's move, buddy," he whispered. Zorak rose beside him, eyes sharp, tail flicking. The air shimmered in the distance. Heat, thrusters, fire. They ran into the forest as the first explosions hit. Trees shattered, ground cracked. Flames chased them through the underbrush. Zorak was fast, but Cole kept up. Not with strength, but instinct. Every footstep mattered. Every second was life. Behind them, soldiers dropped with flamers and shock weapons. They opened fire blindly, burning everything in their path. "Shoot the beast. Don't stop," screamed a voice over comms. They didn't see Cole. They didn't care if he burned. But the jungle knew its protector. Vines moved. Roots shifted. Beasts howled from afar. Zorak's presence called the wild into chaos. Cole felt the power of the planet around them. It wasn't just about survival anymore. Zorak wasn't running from a fight. It was leading Cole toward something. A place deep in the jungle. A place ancient and hidden. A place no mercenary would survive. Cole didn't ask questions. He only followed. Because something in his gut told him the real story had just begun. The jungle grew darker as Cole followed Zorak deeper into the heart of Veridax. The trees were taller here, their roots wider, and the air heavy with strange scents. Cole had no map, no guide, just trust in the beast leading him forward. Behind them, the sound of fire still echoed through the trees. The mercenaries were relentless, burning and blasting everything in their path. But they didn't understand the jungle. They didn't know it was alive. It watched. It judged. And now, it began to fight back. Vines snapped down like whips. Branches shifted silently. Pits opened beneath careless boots. Screams rose through the smoke, not from enemy fire, but from nature itself. The forest didn't want machines here. It only wanted Zorak. And it wanted him safe. Cole paused at a fallen log. His breath was steady, his steps careful. He was used to war, but this was different. This wasn't battle. This was survival, and the planet itself was choosing sides. Zorak moved with purpose, never hesitating. Its ears twitched, eyes scanned, and paws stepped only where it knew was safe. It didn't just live in this jungle, it was part of it. Born here, broken here, reborn here. The deeper they went, the stranger the world became. Plants glowed softly with golden light. Pools of water shimmered like stars. The air thrummed with energy. Cole felt it in his bones. This place was ancient, sacred, hidden for a reason. Zorak stopped at a clearing. At the center stood a stone platform, covered in moss and rings of glowing symbols. It looked like a shrine, but older than any race Cole knew. The beast sat beside it, breathing slow, eyes gentle. This was home. Cole stepped onto the platform. Instantly, a wave of warmth passed through him. Not heat, but memory. A voice without words whispered through the trees. He saw flashes in his. Main Zorak in chains, tortured, tested, and finally unleashed in rage. He dropped to one knee, shaken. This place wasn't just old. It remembered pain. It held sorrow like stone held weight. Cole looked at Zorak, now silent and still. This is where they hurt you, isn't it? Zorak didn't growl. It only bowed its head. For the first time, Cole understood the full truth. The beast was never a killer by nature. It had been turned into one. Shaped by cruelty. Trained by those who thought monsters were tools. Back above, the mercenary captain barked orders from his ship. Send the second wave. Burn the sector. No survivors. His voice was cold. Not angry, just focused. He didn't care about justice, only silence. Only covering up the past. Drop pods screamed down. Explosions rocked the outer jungle. But as they moved closer to the shrine, the land changed. Weapons malfunctioned. Comms failed. Soldiers got lost. Fear spread faster than fire. Even the boldest warriors began to hesitate. Cole stayed still. He could feel the jungle's energy responding to the shrine. Trees bent slightly toward the platform. The ground pulsed faintly beneath his boots. "What is this place?" he whispered. "Why did you bring me here?" Zorak rose and circled the stones. Then, with careful steps, it touched its paw to a central mark. The ground lit up in spirals. Symbols flared around them. The air shimmered. Something deep below responded. Suddenly, a memory not his own hit Cole like lightning. He saw scientists in white. Alien voices, commands, screaming. A young Zorak trapped in a cage, smaller, frightened. Forced to kill, over and over. Every victory meant another punishment. Cole gasped and fell back. His mind throbbed. The beast had shared it with him. Not in words, but in truth. In pain. "You wanted me to know," he whispered. "You needed someone to see." Zorak stepped close, resting its giant head against Cole's chest. It rumbled softly, not in anger, but in relief. Cole wrapped his arms around the beast's neck. It was warm, alive, and finally understood. The silence broke with a crash. Enemy boots hit the edge of the clearing. Dozens of soldiers, armored and armed, raised their weapons. Their captain stepped forward and shouted, "Move away from it, human." Cole didn't move. Zorak didn't growl. They both stood side by side, calm as stone. The jungle behind them seemed to hold its breath. The mercenaries tightened their grips. Fingers hovered over triggers. "I said step away," the captain shouted again. "That thing is dangerous." Cole's eyes narrowed. "No, that thing is a survivor. And it's not yours to command." The captain sneered and raised his hand. Fine, die with it. But before he could give the order, the ground erupted. Vines surged up, roots snapped, and the shrine blazed with ancient light. The jungle itself had chosen its champions. Zorak roared, not in rage, but in power. Sound older than war. A call from the heart of the planet. The mercenaries fell back, weapons cracking. But none hit their target. Every bullet curved. Every blast missed. The forest was bending reality. Cole grabbed a fallen blaster but didn't. Fire, he didn't need to. Zorak was already moving, fast, graceful, alive, not to kill, but to protect. And Cole, for the first time, was not afraid. Zorak moved like a force of nature. Each step was silent, but filled with intent. The air around him pulsed with energy, as if the ground itself welcomed his presence. The mercenaries opened fire, but their bullets missed or dissolved before impact. Cole stood still in the middle of it all. Not because he was frozen by fear, but because he trusted the jungle. He trusted Zorak. He had seen something no one else had. This wasn't just a creature. It was part of something greater. The shrine behind them blazed with light. The symbols on the stone danced like fireflies. The trees leaned in closer, their leaves vibrating. The whole forest was responding to Zorak's call. Cole could feel it in his chest. The jungle had come alive. The mercenaries screamed commands, trying to regroup. But the ground betrayed them. Roots coiled around their boots. Branches swung like hammers. Vines lashed out with precision. It was no longer a battlefield. It was judgment. Zorak let out another roar, shaking the sky. Not a roar of rage, but of release. Years of pain, caged emotions, and silence poured out through that cry. The air cracked like lightning. The enemy line broke. Cole watched as one mercenary reached for a grenade. Before he could throw it, a vine snapped around his arm and yanked him into the shadows. There was no sound after that. Only the constant whisper of leaves. The captain growled in frustration. "Fall back," he yelled. But it was too late. His forces were scattered. Many had already vanished into the jungle. Only a handful remained. Trembling, weapons shaking in their hands. Then Zorak did something strange. He stopped attacking. He stood tall, eyes glowing, chest rising slowly. He stepped forward and placed himself between Cole and the soldiers. Not to attack, but to shield. Cole stepped beside the beast. "You don't want to kill them," he said softly. "Even now you're still showing mercy." The soldiers hesitated. The air was heavy with decision. Then the captain shouted again. "It's manipulating you, human. That thing is a monster." Cole looked straight at him. "And what do you call someone who tortures a living being and then tries to erase the evidence?" The captain raised his weapon. But the jungle had waited long enough. A root burst from beneath him and slammed him into the ground. His rifle skidded across the grass. He didn't get up. Silence returned. The remaining mercenaries dropped their weapons. Not from fear of death, but from realization. They had been lied to. Used. Sent to kill something that didn't deserve it. They turned and ran without another word. Zorak sat slowly and exhaled. The light around the shrine dimmed. The trees relaxed. The forest sighed. Cole placed a hand on the beast's shoulder. "It's over." For now. That night, the fire crackled softly. Cole sat on a log, watching the stars above. Zorak lay curled beside him, eyes half closed. The shrine glowed faintly in the background. Peace, once shattered, had returned, but peace didn't mean safety. Cole knew someone would come next. The mercenaries had failed, but others would try. The truth about Zorak, about what had happened on this planet, would shake the entire galactic union. Cole pulled a small recorder from his pack. He began speaking into it. "This is Cole Brennan. Veridax Prime. I'm with Subject Zorak. Not a weapon, not a killer. A survivor, a victim, and a guardian of something ancient. He paused, then looked at the beast. This world doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the ones who listen. And we haven't listened for a long time. Far above, satellites captured images, not just of the battle, but of something else. Energy patterns unknown to science. Symbols pulsing in rhythms no machine could explain. Whispers of life older than stars. On distant stations, politicians watched with narrowed eyes. Scientists debated in hushed tones. Military leaders argued about threats and control. But one truth was clear: Zorak had changed everything. Back at the jungle, Zorak nudged Cole with his nose. Cole smiled and tossed a piece of dried fruit toward him. The beast caught it in midair. For a moment, they looked like nothing more than old friends under the night sky. The moment was brief. A sound in the distance broke the silence. A ship. Not mercenaries. This one flew with the mark of the Union, sleek, sharp, and clean. Reinforcements had arrived. Cole stood and tightened his pack. Looks like story time is over. You ready? Zorak stood too, muscles rippling beneath glowing fur. His eyes didn't show fear, only patience. Together, they walked toward the light growing through the trees. The world was watching now. And this time, Cole wouldn't let them write the ending without the truth. The Union ship landed just beyond the tree line. Its polished metal hull reflected the jungle light like a silver knife. Leaves burned away as the engines cooled. A perfect circle of silence formed around it. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. Cole stood at the edge of the clearing, Zorak beside him. He had no armor, no rank, no weapons. But the beast at his side made him the most powerful man on the planet. The ramp hissed open. Soldiers stepped out slowly, not mercenaries this time. These wore clean uniforms and carried weapons set to stun. They looked more nervous than aggressive. A woman stepped forward. Her face was calm. Her eyes were sharp. Commander Riven, known across the galaxy as a peacemaker. She raised one hand in greeting. We're not here to fight. Cole nodded but didn't move. Zorak growled low, only once. The soldiers flinched. Riven didn't. We saw the footage. All of it, she said. We know what the mercenaries did. We know who created the beast. And we know you stopped it. I didn't stop anything, Cole replied. I just listened. Riven stepped closer slowly. That alone changes everything. The High Council wants to understand. But more than that, they want to clean their hands. Blame the mercs. Pretend they didn't know. Cole laughed bitterly. Of course they do. Easier to erase mistakes than face them. Zorak stood tall and silent. His body was still, but his eyes watched every movement. The soldiers held position, unsure if they should aim or bow. We don't want war, Riven continued. We want peace. And the Council believes this creature may hold secrets, power, maybe even answers to ancient tech. Cole's expression darkened. So now he's not a weapon, he's a treasure. Riven paused. Her voice softened. What do you want, Cole? Cole looked up at the sky, then back at her. I want him left alone. No cages, no labs, no tests. Just freedom. And I want every file, every record of Project Zorak made public. The soldiers stirred at the word. Riven's jaw tightened. She wasn't surprised, just disappointed. That's a bold ask. It's not a request, Cole said. It's a condition. Riven turned her head slightly, activating her earpiece. She listened for a few seconds, then looked back at him. The Council agrees, on one condition: you come with us. You speak at the trial. They want your words on record. Zorak growled again. Cole placed a hand on his neck. It's all right. Big guy, I'll be fine. The beast looked at him, eyes searching. Then he sat quietly waiting. Cole stepped forward and faced Riven. I'll go, but he stays here. This is his home. Not a courtroom. Not a cage, Riven nodded. Agreed. But we'll need someone to monitor him, for safety. For peace of mind. From behind her stepped a small figure. A young alien girl, slender and graceful, wearing light armor and a wide scanner across her shoulder. She looked no older than 20. Her voice was soft but confident. I've studied his energy signature for years. I won't hurt him. Zorak tilted his head at her. Then, surprisingly, stepped forward and sniffed her hand. She stood still. The beast blinked, then sat again. Approval granted. Cole smiled. Guess he likes you. That's rare. Riven motioned to her crew. Prepare the shuttle. We leave in 1 hour. The testimony will be live, all sectors. Unfiltered, the jungle seemed to sigh as Cole packed his bag. He moved slowly, eyes scanning the trees one last time. He wasn't just leaving a forest. He was leaving something sacred. He knelt beside Zorak and whispered, "Stay out of sight. Stay safe. And don't eat anyone unless they deserve it." Zorak lowered his massive head and pressed it against Cole's chest. A deep rumble of emotion passed between them. Then the beast stepped back and watched as Cole walked away. The soldiers parted. As Cole passed, no one spoke, no one dared. He was just a man. But in that moment, they saw something else. Something stronger than any rank or armor. They saw the human who made the beast purr. As the shuttle lifted off, Zorak vanished into Kofa. The jungle, silent, proud, free. The High Council's hall was a mountain of steel and silence. Lights ran along the walls like veins, glowing white and blue. The air was dry and cold. Even inside, Cole felt like the jungle had never existed. As if nature had been erased. He stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by faces behind. Glass, politicians, scientists, admirals, observers from 100 species. The feed was live. Every world was watching. The trial wasn't about justice. It was about control. The council didn't want truth. They wanted to bury failure under protocol. But they hadn't expected Cole to walk in with scars, dirt-stained boots, and no fear in his voice. The lead speaker, a pale-skinned elder with 6 eyes, cleared his throat. Cole Brennan, you claim the creature known as Zorak is not a threat. That it shows signs of intelligence, emotion, even loyalty. Is this correct? Cole didn't hesitate. That's right. He trusted me. After everything done to him, he still chose peace. That makes him more human than most of you. A few council members shifted uncomfortably. One muttered something about insubordination, but the cameras kept rolling. Every word was now part of the record. Tell us what happened on Veridax Prime. Another voice said, from the moment you met the creature, so Cole did. From the first step into the jungle to the final goodbye. He told them how Zorak didn't kill him, but listened. How the beast showed mercy to those who came to destroy it. How it shared memories that no monster should carry. He spoke of scars, chains, hidden labs, of pain that echoed through blood and bone, of a creature made by hands that never asked what it wanted, of a jungle that fought back not with hate, but with justice. The room was still. The feed reached billions. People who had once feared Zorak now heard of his kindness, his silence, his forgiveness. The story shattered the image of a beast. One councilwoman leaned forward. Do you have any proof of these memories? Cole reached into his pocket and pulled out a small cube. He placed it on the stand. This holds neural impressions from the shrine, taken with union-approved scanners. It shows everything. And it matches the records the mercs tried to delete. The screen behind him lit up. Holograms filled the room. Images of a young Zorak locked in a cell. Wounds being tested. Trainers shouting. Commands repeated until they became instinct. And finally, release into the jungle with orders to kill anything that moved. Gasps echoed. A few faces turned away. Others clenched fists. One admiral whispered, We created that thing. Cole turned slowly. No, you created pain. He became something better on his own. The council fell into debate. Some shouted. Others demanded new votes. But the broadcast kept going. And the people watching from across the stars had already decided who the real monster was. After hours, the lead speaker stood. The council finds Project Zorak unlawful. All related programs are hereby terminated. The creature is granted protection under the Interstellar Species Agreement. Cole let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. But it wasn't over. One more thing, he said. I want it known that if you break that promise, I'll come back. And this time, I won't be alone. The silence that followed wasn't anger. It was respect. Even fear, they believed. Him. Because they had seen the beast bow to him. When Cole left the chamber, the girl who had stayed behind on Veridax greeted him with a calm smile. Zorak's doing well, she said. Still hasn't eaten anyone. Just naps and guards the shrine, Cole chuckled. Sounds like him. Together they boarded the shuttle. Not back to Earth, not to any city, but to the edge of the galaxy. To a place untouched by politics. Where stars bloomed like flowers in the dark. And where Zorak waited, back on Veridax. The jungle danced under moonlight. The shrine pulsed with soft color. Animals moved freely. And Zorak lay beneath the trees, tail flicking slowly, ears turning toward the wind. He had known war. He had felt hate. But now he felt peace. A rare thing for a creature shaped by pain. And above him, far away, his story was being told not as a warning, but as a lesson. Zorak stood near the waterfall, his reflection broken by ripples of cool water. The jungle whispered around him. Birds sang. Distant growls echoed from deeper valleys, but he remained calm. Still, watching the trees for something familiar. The young alien girl Lyra stood a few steps behind him. Her tablet buzzed with quiet data. She wore light armor, not to protect herself, but to honor her assignment. She wasn't a soldier. She was a witness. Cole was returning. The jungle knew before. She did. The vines shifted, leaves lifted. The ground hummed slightly under her boots. Zorak's ears turned. His tail rose and lowered again. He made a low sound deep in his chest. A greeting, not a warning. Then the sound of boots. Steady, familiar. Cole walked into the clearing, his hair longer, beard thicker. But his eyes the same, focused, tired, kind. Zorak didn't charge. He didn't roar. He just stepped forward and gently pressed his forehead to Cole's chest. The man wrapped his arms around the beast's neck. Miss me? Lyra smiled and stepped back, giving them space. This bond, this impossible friendship, had changed the galaxy. And it wasn't finished yet. Cole sat near the stream, pulling a bag from his back. I brought snacks, he said. Real jerky this time. None of that ration stuff. Zorak lowered himself beside the fire pit. His eyes followed every movement, but there was no tension. Only peace. Cole tossed a piece of meat into the air, and Zorak caught it with ease. Lyra finally spoke. The council approved full protection status. No labs, no soldiers. No surveillance unless you approve it. Cole nodded. Good, that's the least. He deserves, she continued. But there's more. A message came from the Arlith Enclave. They claim this jungle is a living neural network, older than recorded history. They believe Zorak might be its chosen guardian. Cole looked up at the trees. They moved like breath. Light passed through the branches in patterns too perfect for chance. I believe it. Lyra sat beside them, careful not to disturb the silence. They want your help. They want to study the shrine. Not to control it, to understand it. With your permission. Zorak glanced at Cole. The man sighed. If they come in peace, with open hands, I'll guide them. They ate in silence for a while. The fire crackled gently. Cole leaned back against a tree and closed his eyes. "Do you think we're done fighting?" Lyra shook her head. "No. But I think we've shown the galaxy something they forgot. That power doesn't have to roar. Sometimes it just lays down and listens." Night came fast. The jungle glowed with soft light. The shrine pulsed quietly in the distance. Zorak stood. Watched near the edge of the camp, his body calm. His eyes always moving. Cole watched him with quiet pride. You know, he never asked for any of this. He just wanted to live, to be left alone. Maybe even to be loved. And he was, Lyra replied. The next morning, more visitors arrived. Not soldiers. Not scientists with cages. But monks from the Orolith order. Dressed in robes of light green and silver, they walked barefoot through the grass. They bowed before Zorak, not as masters, but as students. Cole stood beside the beast. "You came without guns." "That's a good start." The head monk, a tall woman with no eyes but skin that shimmered like mist, spoke softly. "We heard his story. Now we wish to hear his voice." Zorak didn't speak in words. He never had. But he stepped forward and placed a paw on the earth. The shrine responded instantly. Light danced across the stone. Vines coiled gently around its base. Pulse moved through the trees. The monks knelt. One began to cry. Another simply whispered, "It's alive." The forest opened for them. They entered not as explorers, but as guests. Zorak led them to the oldest parts of the jungle. Places even Cole hadn't seen. Lyra recorded carefully, never interrupting. Later, that evening, one of the monks returned with eyes wide and voice shaking. "The jungle showed us a vision. A future. A great fire. And a choice. The human and the beast must stand together again." Soon, Cole said nothing. He looked at Zorak, who had already turned his head toward the stars. Something far above called to him. Not in fear. In purpose. The galaxy had watched them survive. Now it would watch them lead. Cole stood at the cliff's edge, the jungle wind brushing against his face. Below him stretched the wild heart of Veridax Prime, glowing softly in the morning sun. Behind him, Zorak waited silently, eyes fixed on the sky. Ships were coming, not warships, not mercenary dropships, but Union diplomats, neutral observers, and ships marked with the crest of the Orolith Enclave. They came not with weapons but with questions. The galaxy had changed, and all eyes turned back to the jungle. Cole adjusted the old strap of his bag. "You sure about this?" he asked without looking back. Zorak let out a low, steady breath. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was readiness. Lyra approached from behind the shrine, carrying a polished communication tablet. Her armor had been replaced by flowing jungle fabric, marked with green threads woven by the monks. "They want a council," she said. "Here. Not in orbit, not on a station. Here with you." "And him." Cole turned and looked her in the eye. "Good, let them come. But they'd better listen this time." By midday, the landing zones were cleared by the vines themselves. The jungle had accepted the guests. Each shuttle that touched down did so under the silent watch of Zorak, who stood atop a stone ridge like a statue of judgment. The delegates arrived in silence. Some bowed, others avoided the beast's gaze. None dared raise a voice. The shrine had begun to glow before the first word was spoken. It knew what was coming. Cole stood beside the pulsing stone and spoke without notes. "You came for answers. For peace, but peace only begins when truth is accepted. You built monsters. Now you must build trust." He raised his hand and pointed at Zorak. "This is not a weapon. He is not a mistake. He is a mirror. Everything you feared about him lived in you first. But he made a choice. He chose to be more." The crowd was still. Then one ambassador stepped forward. Her skin was golden and scaled, her voice low and careful. "We want to do better. Show us how. Lyra handed Cole the tablet. He loaded the data collected by the Auralith monks. Symbols, energy signatures, ancient codes embedded in the jungle's roots. You start by learning, not controlling. And you do it here, under his watch. Zorak stepped forward and placed one massive paw beside Cole. The ground lit beneath it. The shrine flared. A beam of soft green light rose into the sky. It was not a weapon. It was an invitation. For weeks the site became sacred. Scientists worked side by side with monks. Politicians walked barefoot on moss. Zorak roamed freely, sometimes watching, sometimes sleeping beneath the great trees. And Cole stayed through it all. But peace does not last forever. One night, a ship arrived without signal. A rogue military vessel marked with the crest of a forgotten faction. They landed deep in the jungle and moved like ghosts. Their goal was not peace, it was theft. Cole was the first to notice. The vines didn't move as they should. The birds didn't sing. He woke Zorak with a whisper. They're here again. The kind that never learn. Zorak rose slowly, the fur along his spine glowing faintly. He did not roar. He only moved forward, silent and unstoppable. Lyra rallied the defenders. Not with guns, but with shields formed from the jungle's own fibers. The monks took position beside researchers. Even the diplomats stood their ground. The shrine pulsed with warning. The invaders reached the base of the shrine and aimed their weapons at the stone. We take it now, the leader hissed. With or without survivors. Before they could fire, the ground opened. Roots coiled and wrapped around their legs. Zorak leapt from the ridge above, landing with thunderous weight. He did not kill, he disarmed. He crushed no bones, only metal. Cole stepped into the clearing, unarmed. You had a choice, he said, calmly. And now you're going to listen. By dawn, the rogue ship was gone. Its crew surrendered and was taken away without chains. Zorak watched until the sky was clear. Then he lay beneath the shrine and closed his eyes. The jungle returned. To quiet, the shrine's glow settled into a soft pulse. Cole sat beside his old friend and leaned back on his elbows. Think that's the last of them? Zorak flicked his tail once, then sighed. Lyra smiled as she sat nearby. Even if it's not, they'll know better next time. The story of the beast that once killed 100 warriors now ended with a simple truth. The galaxy had many threats, but some of the strongest were tamed not with chains or fire, but with trust and kindness. And somewhere in the jungle, the wind carried a new name for Zorak, Protector.